Hello. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good. Do you want to go into that link? In fact, let me just put it on a Google Classroom and then you'll be able to have access to it. I think, do you need to request access to it at the moment, I think?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've given you access to it. So just while we wait for everybody, do you want to, if you want to, just while we wait for people, people just coming in now. Do you want to have a go at slide 2, just while we're waiting for everyone to come in? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, Caitlin. Hello. Hello. Hi, can you hear me, Caitlin? Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, good. Right. So if you just go to that link there, and just request access. And then Mia's doing slide 2. So Caitlin, if you do slide 3. And Una, if you do slide 4, just while we wait for everyone, because I know we've got a few more people to who are coming in. So if you've got access to that. Right, I've just given you access, so you should have access now, yeah? Hello, Una. Hello.
Hi.
Are you on that now, Kate? Yeah? So Caitlin, if you do slide 2, and yeah, just while I wait for everyone to join. Hello, Una.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Do you want to put your camera on? And then if you
Let me give me a minute to
okay.
adjust something. Okay, thanks.
Okay, right. So if everybody goes to the PowerPoint, which I've just put in the Google, which I just put in the chat, and then just while we wait for everyone to join, because a few more people who are joining, I've just marked the slide with a name, so you should have that. So just giving somebody access. Okay, so if you just request access for it, you should have it. Okay. So, and you should have a slide marked with your name, which we're going to be answering just while we wait for everyone to join. So is there anyone who hasn't got access to it? Is there anyone who hasn't got access to it? Is there anyone who hasn't got access to it?
I still don't have access.
Who's that? Sorry. I think you.
Me.
I think you do. So I just approved it just now. Okay. Okay. Right. So, I think we are all here. So lovely. Okay. So just while we were waiting, people have been doing some questions. So Mia on slide 2, Caitlin on slide 3, Una on slide 4, Winston slide 5, and Abby on slide 6. Okay. Oh, sorry, Abby, I put you on slide 7 originally. So I'll just, if you leave slide 7 blank, I'll then do that one. So we'll have 2 minutes, just recapping. So we kind of went through a little bit of this last time. So we're going to look at the First World War today, and then look at the Second World War next time, and then the Cold War after that. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go through those questions. We'll have 3 minutes, just a very brief 3 minutes, okay? Because obviously that's just while people are waiting for people to log in, and then we'll go through the answer. Okay, so it will be, if I can just share my screen, which I can't do. So one time I'm just gonna reload. Can people hear me okay, by the way? Yeah, good. Okay. Can people see my screen or not? Can people see my screen? Yeah, now they can. Yeah. Okay, good. Right, lovely. Okay, 1 minute left. 1 minute left, and then we will review this. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, lovely. Right, so we also have our microphones on because we're going to be speaking. So we unmute ourselves, please. So we just unmute yourself. Yeah, good. Winston, unmute yourself. Right, okay, so the first question, what year is the First World War? Okay, so I think as people have put, so everyone put their 1914 to 1918. Okay, so the conflict we're looking at, so the 20th century, which obviously is the years between 1900 and 1999, has kind of 3 really major conflicts, which is the First World War between 1914 and 1918, World War II, which is between 1939 and 1945, and then obviously the Cold War. But we have to be able to understand all of them to understand how we get to the Cold War, first of all. So the First World War is a conflict that breaks out between 1914 and 1918, and it kind of happens by accident, as we'll talk about in just a second. Why did the First World War begin? So can anyone remember? Mia, can you remember who was assassinated?
I think it was Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
It was Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Yeah, so he was the heir to the Austrian throne, and on the 28th of June 1914, he was visiting Sarajevo, and he was shot. And he was shot by somebody who was part of a terrorist organization called the Black Hand. And they wanted to assassinate him, and that resulted in the kind of what was called the July Crisis of 1914, which we'll have a look at in just a second. So the First World War began kind of almost by accident with assassination that then triggered the July Crisis. Actually, guys, if you just mute yourselves, and when I ask you, just unmute yourself because it's getting a lot of feedback. So if you just mute yourselves, but be prepared to unmute yourself. Okay. So who were the two opposing sides in the First World War? So, Una, what did you put for that question?
The Allies and Central.
So, I mean, that's more World War II. So World War One, we've got the Triple Entente. So, guys, if you just mute yourselves again, just because it's too much feedback. So, you just mute yourselves, please. So we got the Triple Entente, which was between Britain, France, and Russia, which we'll have a look at in a second. And then you had the Triple Alliance. And the Triple Alliance was between Caitlin, I think you're not muted. The Triple Alliance was between Britain, France, and Russia, and the Triple Entente. Sorry, so the Triple Entente, looking at the second, was between Britain, France, and Russia, whereas the Triple Alliance was between Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. So it kind of divided Europe into two sides. Why did the First World War end? Does anyone know why it comes to an end? So we have the armistice that's signed in 1918, but Winston, do you know why it comes to an end?
Because the Triple Alliance lost?
Yeah, I suppose. So they were losing. So basically by 1918, you have a really desperate situation in Germany in particular. So what happens is that the British so if you just go to if you have a look here at slide 8. So as you can see on slide 8, Germany is surrounded by a coast. So can you see my mouse or not? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see it go around in circles, yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
So Germany, as you can see, is surrounded by a coast here. And what Britain does throughout the First World War is it has a naval blockade of Germany. So it basically blockades any goods and services coming to Germany in these waters. So anywhere here, it kind of blockades. So as a result, Germany basically kind of during the First World War, there's a huge lack of nutritious goods and services in Germany as a result of that naval blockade. And by 1918, basically the German people are kind of fed up with the conflict. They've had huge amounts of fighting for 4 years. They don't think the war could be won. So obviously, they're coming under sustained pressure militarily, and also their citizens are very malnourished as a result of the naval blockade. So as a consequence of that, the German military high command kind of did sort of try and get a ceasefire in the form of an armistice. Okay, so the Treaty of Versailles formally ended the war, but the armistice kind of was signed in November 1918, so there's no fighting after that. So let's just go around the room then in terms of different battles. So Mia, can you give me a battle that that you thought about in terms of the First World War? What there was?
Like the Battle of Somme. I'm not
Battle
sure how
of the
to.
Somme. Yeah,
Yeah.
Battle of the Somme. That was in 1916. Good. Una, any other battles that you know about?
The Battle of Marne.
Battle of the Marne.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one in 1914. Good. Okay. Winston, any other battles?
Battle of the Ysev?
That was sort of in 1914. So there was a river called that was a kind of a battle. It was kind of a bit of fighting around that area where there's a river in France. Abby, any other battles you know about?
Battle of Verdun.
Say again.
Battle of Verdun.
Battle of Verdun. Good. Okay. Caitlin, any other battles you know about? or have you kind of run dry?
Wait, I can't think of others.
Okay, don't worry too much. We'll have a look at them later today. Okay, so that's just a quick sort of knowledge recap of the First World War, about stuff that we can know. So if we go to slide 8. So slide 8 shows us what Europe looked like in 1914. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to have a look at that. So obviously we can see here Britain. Don't worry about the colour coding of it. What I'd like you to do is just have a look at it, and I'm going to ask you in about 20 seconds, so just have a think of it on your own, is 2 things. So firstly is, what do we notice about this map that might differ to modern day Europe? Okay, so there's stuff on this map that is different to modern day Europe. Okay, so what do we notice? And secondly is what might be a threat for Germany here? What might the threat be for Germany in this particular situation? So just 20 seconds thinking about question 1, which is, how does this map differ from kind of modern day Europe? Okay, so 15 seconds having a look at that map. Okay, so Caitlin, what do you look on that map to see? What do you think is different in that map compared to modern day Europe? What's different?
Russia is bigger compared to like wait.
Yeah. So
Russia
if
is
you,
like
go on.
larger.
Yeah, so if you have a look here, so these countries now in Eastern Europe, countries like Poland, Ukraine, Bulgaria. Okay, obviously Bulgaria's down here, Romania is there, so they're there. But countries like Poland, Ukraine, okay, well they're not. They haven't been formed yet. They're not formed until the 1920s. Okay, in the case of Poland, case formed in 1921. So you've got a lot of these. So first of all, is in the Russian Federation here. So Russia is ruled by a king called the Tsar, Tsar Nicholas II, who eventually is overthrown in a communist revolution in 1917, which is during the First World War. But the point is that, as you're quite identifying, there's lots of countries in Eastern Europe that hasn't formed yet. So you've got a lot of sort of national minority groups here who are living as part of the Russian Empire, who obviously later form their own countries. So that's obviously one element. What else? Let's go with Abby. What else do you notice that's different from this map compared to modern day Europe?
I only noticed that you said before many countries weren't formed like the Ottoman Empire, like it was what now I think it's Turkey and yeah, a lot of countries haven't have them like come out yet.
Yeah, so if you think here, okay, you've got sorry. Here you've got the Ottoman Empire, which is obviously now modern day Turkey. You've got Cyprus here, so you've got lots of empires. You've got the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire again disintegrates after the First World War. So the First World War sees massive changes in Eastern Europe because you've got the formation of Eastern European nation states. You see the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, which is a centuries-old dynasty, and the formation of modern countries like Turkey and Cyprus. Okay, Can anyone see anything else? Any other empire that no longer exists?
Austria-Hungary.
Yeah, Austria-Hungary. So obviously Austria and Hungary after the First World War are then two separate nation states. So you have the Kingdom of Austria and the Kingdom of Hungary. Okay, that are two separate nations. So the point is what we see after the First World War is that we see the collapse of empires. Okay, and in fact, even the British Empire, whilst Britain wins the First World War, okay, some of the British Empire sort of see this as a kind of a inkling, as to say, well, we've kind of fought for Britain in the First World War, and obviously we've kind of died for Britain. But after sort of World War One, there's the development of independence movements, and you see, for example, the Indian independence movement under Gandhi, for example, really come to fruition in the 1930s and 1940s, and of course they eventually get independence in 1948. So the point about the First World War is it really begins this kind of move towards trying to, or the establishment of individual nations. Has anyone else got any other questions about that map at all, or any comments they wanted to make? Any questions? No? Okay, so let's have a look at slide 9, please. So we go down to slide 9. Good. So just have there's 2 more people. So Abby and I don't know who Winston is. I don't know. Somebody in Mandarin, I think it is. I can't see. Good. So this is basically, think about that map. So countries towards the end of the 19th century were basically split into different sides. So you had the Triple Entente. So the Triple Entente So the Triple Entente was formed in 1907, and that was between the UK, France, and Russia. Okay. And this was basically a defensive alliance that was formed in response to the Triple Alliance that was formed in 1881, which was between Italy, Russia, and Germany. Okay. Now, can anyone see anything? So bear in mind, this is what I've told you. The Triple Alliance was between Italy, Russia, and Germany, and the Triple Entente was between the UK, France, and Russia. Can anybody think, or can anyone see anything that's a bit odd there? Is there anything that's a bit odd there that you can see? Yeah, just say it. Put your hand up. Mia, go on.
Like Russia's in like the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance.
Oh, sorry, that's my mistake. It should be Italy, Austria, Hungary. Sorry, that's my mistake. Thank you for correcting me. So you're on the right lines, though. There is a country that I've listed there that doesn't join on the same side, is there?
Why is Italy in the Triple Entente in the picture, but isn't the Triple Alliance? Like, did it change?
Exactly. So very good question. So the point is these alliance systems, the Triple Alliance was formed in 1881, and these alliance systems were designed as defensive alliances, so that if you're in the Triple Alliance, so Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy, they pledged that if any other country attacked them, they would come to their defense. So, for example, if France declared war on Germany, then Austria, Hungary, and Italy would declare war on France. Similarly, in the Triple Entente, they pledged to defend each other, so that if any country attacked them, they would defend against the other. Now, when the First World War happened in 1914, because there was something called the July Crisis that we're going to come on to in just a second. Basically, what happens is that after the Austro-Hungarian prince goes to Serbia here and gets assassinated, Austria-Hungary declare war on Serbia. As a result, Russia declare war on Austria-Hungary because they see themselves as the defender of the Serbs. And as a consequence, you've got a situation where a triple entente power is in conflict with a triple alliance power. And so each of the other countries come to attack each other. Now, Italy, however, when World War I starts, actually decides to stay neutral. So they decide that when war starts in 1914, despite being a signatory of the Triple Alliance, that they're not going to join in the war. It was what was called the intervention crisis. They had an intervention crisis in 1914, where basically they couldn't decide what to do, whether they should honour the Triple Alliance and come onto the side of them, or whether they should stay neutral, or whether they should join the side of the Triple Entente. So what happens is in 1914, Italy stays neutral in the First World War, and after a year, they then decide to join the other side, which is the Triple Entente, and they sign something called the Treaty of London, where it was agreed that instead they would join the Triple Entente. Now, if we're being very cynical about it, maybe you could say they tried to calculate which side to join, okay, because they originally as I say, joined up the Triple Alliance, stayed neutral. Maybe they were trying to see which way the war was going, and therefore joined the Triple Entente accordingly. What was interesting, though, is after the First World War, where we had the Treaty of Versailles that was signed. The Treaty of Versailles was the peace treaty. Italy got very little out of the peace treaty. Very, very, very little indeed. Okay, France did very well out of it. But Italy, despite being on the winning side, did not. So it was referred to as a mutilated victory, okay, in Italy, that they won, but they didn't really get the kind of benefits of winning, so to speak. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Good. Anyone got any questions? So the point is that some people, so there's a historian called S.B. Fay. If you just joined, by the way, could you just, if you just joined, if you click on that link and request access, then I can give you access to the PowerPoint, okay? So the some historians, so the historian S.B. Fay, okay, Sidney Bradshaw Fay, he argues that the alliance system was the main cause of the First World War. So he says that the conflict was caused because of these alliance systems. And what he said is that basically it kind of put Europe, it divided Europe into two discrete alliances that were kind of inevitably going to have to fight against one another. And this meant that basically Europe was inevitably on the course to conflict. Okay, so has anybody got any questions on the alliance system or what the alliance system was?
Did the other countries, like the other small countries that are said to be in the Triple Entente, did they also fight, or were they just there because of defensive reasons, like Italy?
Yeah, so Italy played a reasonable part. So Italy, basically, there were kind of different fronts in the First World War. So you had the Western Front, which ran all the way down here, basically, all the way around the kind of French, Belgium, and German border and Austrian up to here. You had a Southern Front that was kind of fought along here, which was actually very, very brutal because you had fighting in the Alps and things like that. So it got very, very cold. And then you had the Eastern Front, which was in the fighting along the kind of German, Russian, Austrian border that was here. So those are the three main fronts. But you also had fighting elsewhere. So you had a very famous battle in Turkey called Gallipoli, where there was a number of Indian soldiers, for example, that were used. So I think your question was, what did the other countries do? Yeah, they mainly provided troops to fight in some of these fronts. A lot of the kind of British Empire as well provided troops to fight. So, for example, to say the Indian soldiers fought in Gallipoli, the Canadian soldiers fought very famous battle at Vimy Ridge in France in 1917. That was a very famous battle. So, the point is that the other countries, those smaller countries, so like Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, they were kind of mainly providing troops to the kind of bigger players, so to speak, to kind of fight in campaigns. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyone else got any other questions on the alliance system? Okay. If you request access, if you just join us, if you go to the Zoom chat, just that I just put there, and you click that link and request access to it, then you can then you'll be on the PowerPoint. Okay. Is that all right? Yeah. So I've just given you access to that there. Okay. So you should be on it now. Okay. All right. Good. So the point is that in terms of sort of international relations, therefore, this demonstrated the problem of having a split continent where you had different sides formed between Triple Alliance, Triple Entente. So on the 28th of June 1919, this man here, okay, called Archduke Franz Ferdinand, okay, visited Sarajevo, okay, which is in Serbia. So as you can see, that's here. Okay, and there was a group of kind of nationalists who wanted Serbia to have greater independence from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Okay, and they were part of a terrorist group called the Black Hand, and they assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And of course, we all know the story where basically the assassin went into a sandwich shop in Sarajevo, and Archduke Franz Ferdinand took the wrong turning. Okay, and as a result, was kind of there for the assassin to fire at, and that led to something called the July Crisis of 1914. So, if you have a look at slide 11, please, if you go down to slide 11. So, if you'll go down to slide 11. So, you had what was called, let's say, the July Crisis of 1914. Now, the July Crisis of 1914 was a very serious crisis, because it involved the whole of Europe, because you had the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, okay, and that led to a series of international crises. Now, the point is that nobody really wanted the First World War. So there was no. Some people say they did. So there's a historian called Fritz Fischer who says that Germany actively wanted to have the First World War, and they actively kind of tried to ensure the First World War happened. But the reality was that actually throughout the course of July 1914, there were attempts to kind of stop it. So how do we get to war in 1914? Well, firstly, as a result of that assassination, Austria-Hungary gets a blank check on the 5th of July from Germany to say that they will have total unconditional support in case of a conflict with Serbia. So they say that effectively that whatever Austria-Hungary want to do to Serbia, Germany will unconditionally back it. So as a result, what Austria do is they issue a very harsh ultimatum to Serbia on the 23rd of July 1914. And it's a humiliating set of ultimatums. There's about 25 pledges in there they have to make. And effectively, it is so humiliating that there is no way that Serbia really will accept it. And the Austro-Hungarians say that Serbia has to accept every single demand, or less they will be at war. And when Serbia does not fully accept it, Austria-Hungary decides to declare war on Serbia on the 28th of July 1914. So at this point here, on the 28th of July 1914, you have a war between Austria and Serbia. But this is when the alliance system comes in. As a result, okay, in response to that, Russia declares war on Serbia on the 29th of July 1914 because because the Russians see themselves as the defenders of the people of Serbia. And therefore, the alliances comes into play. So Germany declares war on Russia on August the 1st, and then France on August the 3rd. And finally, Germany decides to invade Belgium. And that, as a result, brings Britain into the war. So what you have here, basically, is from this bit here, you have the kind of flowing of the alliance system. But the point was that no one really wanted the war. So Winston Churchill, who was a very senior British politician at the time, he was on holiday in North Norfolk the day before, as late as July the 29th, 1914, July the 30th. He was on his summer holidays in North Norfolk. So around about now, 110 years ago, he decided to come back from holiday. Mia, yes.
Did like any country split like different sides just to fight in like the war?
So did any country split?
Like for example, if like a country like split it in half and then one half went to like the Triple Entente and the other one went to like the Central Powers.
No, you didn't get that. But what you did get is people kind of covertly fighting on other sides. So, for example, you would get sort of like groups of people who would go over and fight, say, very, very few people, but if they had maybe German ancestry, they might go and fight for Germany on their side, but you wouldn't get country splitting, or you didn't get country splitting like that. What was I going to say? I mean, you had some neutral countries who were kind of facilitating support for different sides. So, for example, Spain was neutral during the First and the Second World War as well. Spain was neutral in both the First and Second World War, very interestingly. But they kind of facilitate support for one side over the other by kind of letting ammunition go to them and things like that. Okay. Good. Okay. So, if we just go back then to have a look at this slide here. So everyone go down to slide 12. So I want you to imagine for a second that you imagine you're Germany. Okay, so let's look at slide 12. So what problem does Germany, just on your own, because I'm going to take some comments in about 20 seconds. What problem does Germany have here? So just on your own for 20 seconds, and I'm going to take some comments. Okay, so imagine you're Germany. What problems would you have here? Okay, right. So, is it Blair? Blair? Is that how you say your name?
No, what?
How do you pronounce your name?
Blair.
Blair. Okay, so what problems do you think that Germany would have here?
Like which country? Like about
Germany. So imagine you're Germany. What problems do you think you might have here in the context of the war?
because like Russia is just next to me, and yeah, they're having like war with Ukraine, so that might be really bad.
Okay, I mean, obviously, so Ukraine at this point is actually part of Russia, but what problems do you think Germany would have? So you've got Russia on one side. Okay, that might be a problem. What else might be a problem?
France.
Okay, so can anyone sort of articulate that in a sentence? What's the problem for Germany? Winston, what's the problem?
He's very close to two of the main powers of the Triple Entente. So,
Yeah.
and the United Kingdom is closer to them than Austria-Hungary, so they would most likely surround Germany first, and they would die.
Yeah, good. Anyone else got any other points? Mia?
Kind of the same, but they like Germany was surrounded by like its enemies, and then they didn't really have a pathway out because like they could just use blockades and stuff.
Yeah, so the thing is here is they actually got a war on two fronts. So Germany, obviously here, allied to Austria-Hungary, but they've got Russia and they've got France. So whereas Russia could just obviously deploy their forces along all this border here, and France can deploy all their forces on this border here, and Italy can deploy their force on this border here, well, the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians have got a war on two fronts. They've got a war against France on this side and Italy on this side, and then Russia on this side. So it's a war on two fronts. So what it meant was their armies had to split between two ways. You had a western front and you had an eastern front and even a southern front as well. Now, can anyone think, if you were Germany, how might you get round this? So I'll give you 20 seconds to have a think about it. So if you were Germany, how might you get round this? So Russia is such a big country that it takes them 6 weeks to mobilize their army. Okay, just for context. Okay, so 15 seconds. Okay, Una, what do you think? How would you get around that if you were Germany?
I think I would have peace with Russia as soon as possible to like try to exploit political unrest.
So you would try and have peace with Russia, what, and then fight France? Trouble is, Russia's not going to accept that. Russia's not going to accept that because they think they can win the war because they've got Germany where they want them. So I don't think that's going to be allowed. Caitlin, what do you think? What would you do if you were Germany?
I might try to like negotiate a treaty with France, and if they disagree, then I might just like
So let's assume we have to fight. We can't negotiate peace treaties because they're not going to want to do it with us. So how do you conduct the war? What do you do?
travel up to Denmark and Sweden and ask for help.
Okay, but still means there's a war on two fronts. Okay, Mia, what would you do?
I would like probably kind of do the same thing as what Caitlin said, but like just go through like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway since they're neutral in this war, and then just go through the Arctic and do something that they want to do to protect themselves, or rather like travel downwards to Austria-Hungary because they're both like on the same side, and then ask Bulgaria to help since they're really close, and yeah.
So you would go down there and through there.
Kind of.
Okay. Winston, what would you do?
I would send some of my Navy forces. Like, I don't know how many people it would take to operate a boat, but the UK would probably be pretty scared about Germany, and because they probably got spies and we got 2 fronts, so maybe we can use that to our advantage and pretend that we're going to ambush the UK. So we shouldn't put too many people on those boats, or else if we don't succeed, there's going to be too many people dying. And we're there. And when France and UK is distracted over there, I will go attack Russia first.
Okay. Abby, Caitlin, have you got any ideas?
I would like try to convince like the neutral countries to like ally with Germany.
Okay. But they want to stay neutral, so they're not probably going to do that. Caitlin, any thoughts?
I think like I might also be able to like pretend to battle with the UK while I'm actually trying to protect Germany itself, and then Russia and France might try to help the UK because they are a team, and then I can attack Russia and France later when they're trying to when they're sending all their like all their supplies to the UK.
Okay. So interesting idea. So this is basically what was debated for years, because Germany thought to themselves, well, if there's a war, what are we going to do? Because they could see this problem of a war on 2 fronts. They could see that this was going to be a huge problem for them. So they thought, well, what do we do? So what they came up with was something called the Schlieffen Plan. And the Schlieffen Plan, you can see, is here. So what they decided to do, as you can see on slide 13, was they decided that they would go into France through Belgium. And they would try and get to Paris by circling round. So they'd have one force through, 3 or 4 forces all through Belgium, and only one through France. And they would try and go and knock France out the war very quickly. So they would go through Belgium, through neutral Belgium, which they thought would be defenceless, and then try and come round Paris. So Paris would be circled by forces here, here, and here. And they would encircle Paris and therefore knock the French out the war. And then they would take their troops all the way back to Russia in the time in which Russia was mobilizing, and then they'd only have a war on one front. So what they decided to do was, as I say, effectively to knock France out the war very quickly. Or what they tried to do was knock France out the war very, very quickly, because then they thought, well, if we knock France out the war, we've then only got one front to fight on. So that was called the Schlieffen Plan. That was determined by Count Alfred von Schlieffen in 1905. So it was developed in 1905 by what the sort of head of the German army. Okay, has anyone got any questions on what the Schlieffen Plan was? Yeah, Mia.
Okay.
Did like
Cool.
the plan?
It didn't work. It didn't work. And that was because if we go down to slide 14, there was a number of battles that were in the First World War. So what happened was the first battle was the Battle of the Marne. Now, if you can have a look here, okay, you can see the River Marne. That was the line to Paris. And what happened was effectively was that the Germans attacked the French at the Marne, hoping to get to Paris, but they were defeated. And so this is referred to as the miracle of the Marne. So the Schlieffen Plan failed because the Triple Entente's troops at the Battle of the Marne, including French and British troops, stopped the German advance. So they stopped the German advance right here at the Battle of the Marne. And so you had then, as a result, what happened was you had the Germans said, right, we're not going to win, so we're going to have to build trenches. So as a result, they dug trenches deep into the ground because they wanted to make sure that basically there wasn't kind of constant fighting, because they had to split their troops between 2 fronts. So you had the Second Battle of Ypres, which is where the Germans use chemical gas for the first time. But again, they've kind of failed to defeat the Entente powers. you have the Battle of Verdun, which again you can see is here on the map, where they try and knock out the French forces so they can have a straight line to Paris, and they do very well there until the Battle of the Somme takes out huge amounts of resources from the German army, and that basically kind of stalemates the war effectively. And the Germans get so tired throughout the course of the war because they're fighting on two fronts, they can't really fight it. And in the end, they totally capitulate at the Battle of Amiens in 1918, in August 1918, so almost kind of 100 years ago today, where as a result they kind of failed to, the Allies kind of totally defeat the Germans. Caitlin.
I'm sorry, but like my mom said I have stuff to do
Yeah,
later, and
that's
I
right.
have to.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine. Off you go. Thank you.
thank you.
So the point is, to answer your question, Mia, is basically the Schlieffen Plan fails because of the Battle of the Marne. The Germans are unable to defeat the French there, and we get these kind of really kind of long trench battles where both sides kind of really find it very, very hard to defeat the other. The Battle of the Somme is a kind of huge casualties happen there. So about 19,240 British men die on one day alone, which was July the 1st, 1916. So as a result, we kind of don't get any kind of sort of quick victory. So the Germans don't get the kind of war that they wanted. Okay. Good. Has anyone got any questions on that? Anyone got any questions? No? Okay, so if we go down then to the end. So we have here just a quick kind of knowledge just quiz on what we've done today, just to finish up. So if Mia, if Mia does slide 15 and 16, answering those questions. If Blair, you do slide 17 and 18. If Winston, you do slide 19 and slide 20 for me, please. Abby, if you do slide 21, slide 22 for me, please. Una, if you do slide 23 and 24 for me, please. Is there anyone who hasn't got a slide? Anyone who hasn't got a slide? Abby, have you got a slide? Yeah. Mia, have you got a slide?
Yeah,
You have. What slide are you doing, Mia?
15 and 16.
Okay. Is there anyone who hasn't got a slide? Anyone who hasn't got a slide? Blair, you've got a slide. Your slide 17, 18, Blair, yeah? Yeah? Una got a slide? Yep, good.
Yeah.
Right. So good. Right, 3 minutes and then we'll go through it. Right, 30 seconds left. And then we'll go through that. Okay. How's it going, Mia?
Great, but I'm just like finishing the last separate parts.
Just finishing the last one, yeah? Uno, okay, all good? Yeah? Okay, so let's just quickly go through these then before we finish. So so obviously the First World War began between 1914 and 1918. Okay. And who was assassinated? Well, it was Archduke Franz Ferdinand. I suppose it was significant because you could say, well, it started the kind of July crisis of 1914. Okay. And it kind of triggered a chain of events that kind of led to ultimately people declaring war on each other in 1914. What was the blank check and who gave it to whom? Well, that was Austria-Hungary gave the blank check to Serbia, okay, because obviously Serbia was Austria-Hungary. So Germany, that's not right. Germany gave the blank check to Austria-Hungary in the way they dealt with Serbia. So the blank check was given by Germany to Austria-Hungary in the way they wanted to deal with Serbia after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Okay, so it was given by Germany to Austria-Hungary to deal with to deal with Serbia as they thought fit after the assassination. So how does it differ? Well, you've got the Russian Empire is much bigger. And you've got the fact there's the Austro-Hungarian Empire, there's the Ottoman Empire that exists. Obviously, it doesn't exist now. You have other countries that form later, like Poland after the First World War. Okay. What was the Schlieffen Plan? Well, the Schlieffen Plan was they tried to invade France through Belgium to knock France out the war first before coming back to fighting Russia. Okay, so that's the first slide. Anyone got any questions about that? No? And then on slide 2, which countries are part of the Allied powers, which is part of the Central powers? So Allied were Russia, France, UK. Central was Germany, Austria, and you have Italy as well, I suppose, although they don't fight in the First World War on their side. So you could put Italy there if you want, but they don't obviously fight when war breaks out in 1914. Question 6 was the Somme. Okay, the Somme was the longest and most brutal, so it goes from July to November 1916. And on one day alone, 20,000 British men die, or 19,240. Why did Britain declare war on Germany in August 1914? Well, because of Germany's invasion of Belgium, and Britain set up Belgium through the Treaty of London of 1839. And so as a result, Britain kind of saw themselves as the defenders of the Belgian people and the Belgian country. Why the First War ended in 1918? Well, that was just because Germany was too weak by that point. Okay. And was the alliances the main cause? Well, you could have said yes, because it kind of led to a chain reaction. But you could have said no, because actually you could argue, well, the alliance system kind of was found in the 1880s, and yet the war didn't start until 1914. So if it was a main cause, why did the First World War not start sooner? Why did it start in 1914? Why didn't it start, in 1910 or 1905? It was the alliance system. The alliances were formed in 1881 and 1907, and yet war doesn't start till much later. So actually, maybe it may have been due to the specific circumstances of July 1914 that meant the First World War began. Okay. So, good one, sir. That was good knowledge there. Anyone got any questions? No? Okay, good. Right, well, I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye.